It's almost like technology is like timeline hopping or something.
Yeah.
Like if you create something, I think about this with the steampunk revolution, where, it's like William Gibson sci-fi novels is like this alternative, second industrial revolution where we weren't using gas engines and we were just using, steam or whatever. And like, there are different, I don't know, like the semiconductor, that's somewhat arbitrary. What if we had like some sort of biological computation or something? We were programming little like rat neurons, and like that's how we were, that's a whole computational tech tree, outside of silicon. And so it's so interesting how we just get routed in these different, and sometimes it's a cul-de-sac like string theory where it's like, I don't think that's going anywhere. We got to figure out something new. It's fascinating.
Well, as I said, we're never as smart as we think we are. And every time we have a major breakthrough, when we look on the other side, we say, well, now that we did this, we're going to need a couple more major breakthroughs up there because of what we see ahead. So even Einstein, when he came up with his miracle year in 1905, he was feeling really good in 1906, but he wasn't feeling so good in 1917 when he couldn't prove his general relativity theory. And of all people, it would take an enemy of Germany, Eddington, to do the work on capturing the deviation of a star around the sun during an eclipse to prove that Albert Einstein was correct.
Totally. And even then, it wasn't fully accepted. And he also was a foundational player in quantum mechanics. He really helped establish it. People don't really give him credit for that part of his work. But he had all sorts of issues with quantum mechanics as this kind of ontological framework. And he would have debates with Niels Bohr in the Copenhagen School about what this meant and what entanglement meant and how it was even possible. Even though he was kind of responsible for a lot of early entanglement work, EPR. That's Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen. Yeah. So,
what did he get his Nobel Prize in? Photoelectric effect.
Yeah,
a photon of light. He received his Nobel Prize for a quantum theory.
Yes.
And his general relativity never got a Nobel Prize.
And the photoelectric effect, even when he discovered it in 1905, hadn't been experimentally proven. It was just a theory. And then it was later experimentally proven. Yeah. But obviously the photoelectric effect has had him, in some ways, I don't know. I'd be curious if somebody were to do a research on this, but whether general relativity or special relativity has had a greater impact on our reality. Because the photoelectric effect, you wouldn't have like a TV, right? Like it's like literally just light and its interaction with like metal surfaces. And that's pretty key to like everything, even a lot of the stuff in quantum mechanics. And then general relativity, that feels to me, again, I'm a physics idiot, but like feels a little more important for like cosmology. And then like, I think we're kind of off on a lot of cosmological stuff. So, and it's kind of put a governor on propulsion, where it's like, the speed of light is just the speed limit. It's the global speed limit. So I wonder if maybe actually the Nobel Prize Committee back then, knew what it was doing or something.
Well, Bose, the mathematician from India, he was writing really great lectures. And he sent one to Albert Einstein and said, nobody's listening to me. And he said, well, I'll put my name on it and then they'll listen. And so, bosons are named after Bose. It's just crazy that this guy that nobody believed from India, that no one would pay attention to, as soon as Albert Einstein puts his name on it, oh, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
Right up until Albert Einstein said you're brilliant, you were stupid.
Right. Yeah, we're very mimetic. We like what other people like, and if they're of high stature, then all of a sudden that's this like really important stamp of approval. And so Yeah. Well, where do you think disclosure is headed? Do you think we'll get some exciting, revelation near term? Do you think it'll stay in this sort of liminal space of some people believing, others not? Or what do you think?
I think this simple biggest problem is bureaucratic inertia. It takes somebody who is really strong in their beliefs to step out from the group of people who are all agreeing how smart they are and say, listen, y'all are smart, but you're not smart about this one thing. And so you have to have the other people agree that, yes, what you're talking about is true before the entire group will finally begin to act as though it's true. I believe that we are to a point that realistically, we don't need to prove that UAP are real. We have plenty of evidence that UAP are real. But as long as we're still fighting the battle, UAP are real, we're missing the bigger battle, which is what are we going to do with it? And so we need to stop fighting over whether it's real, because it is real. So now we need to figure out what on earth are we going to do with it. That guy came up.
What do you think we should do with it?
I think we need to release a large part of the information. Being from the military, I know that if I have an advantage, if I'm flying an F-16 and I have an advantage over another jet, I'm not going to tell you what my advantage is. However, there are so many elements of what UAPs mean to humans, to technology, that I think it is irresponsible to continue to say there's nothing to see here. No, we can already see it. When you stand up and say that, you just look stupid.
Yeah.
And then if we accept that, we look stupid.
Yeah.
We need to be moving beyond stupidity, and we need to be making progress. The only way we're going to make progress is to get meaningful disclosure.
Yeah.
But the people who own the processes are the ones who will determine whether or not the disclosure occurs.
Do you think, Bob Lazar, who's reportedly an EG&G employee, not too many years before your sighting,
right,
4 years,
no.
Do you think that your story adds corroboration to his stated work at Area 51, reverse engineering a UFO?
I would say it does. Now then, his story is very complex, so I don't know which elements I would say this really adds to it, and this one doesn't add much to it. The only way I could really judge that was if I ever met him, and we had a long discussion, just the two of us, with nobody listening.
Yep.
But to a certain extent, one of the things I mentioned was that if you take away the oddness to the corners and the sections of his craft and smooth it out, as I've described with this egg, it would be very much like his sports model. Now, I don't know if they're at all related, but boy, it would be a lot like it.
Yeah, it sounds very similar. It sounds just like a smoother, pearly white version
right.
of it, where you don't have this kind of cockpit, but it just kind of smooths. Yeah. Fascinating.
Well, if you look at the early aircraft that was used in combat aviation, and then you look at the smooth surfaces of the F-22 and the F-35, you don't see big fat wings. You don't see vertical stabilizers. You don't see great big engines with propellers on them. They're both flight vehicles, and at the time they were both viable.
Different parts of the brain have different activities. When you know that, don't you?